Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the session. Today, we're going to take a small walk into what is data visualization. I'm just going to take a part one of this talk now. It will be over four sessions so that I can keep it small and brief. So, this is just a cartoon which says, I'll pretend that this data is found as reliable and you pretend to pay attention to it. So in many meetings, we have people presenting data and often it's in the form of graphs and tables. The most important thing is, even if the data looks very nice, it has to be reliable and people should pay attention to it. Much of my talk is about how to get people to pay attention to the data being presented, but the data underlying has to be reliable. That is an assumption that we have to make when we start this kind of talk. So I just want to, first of all, acknowledge that the Royal Statistical Society has got a website on data visualization. And I've given you the link to this web page. And it has got 4 sections to it. One is why we visualize data. The second is principles of data visualization. The third is choosing visualization type. And the fourth is styling for accessibility. Today, I'm just going to take a brief session on why we visualize data. The material is taken from Royal Statistical Society, and I must acknowledge these two people, Andreas and Nicola Rennie, and we are using this from them using the Creative Commons license. Just some examples about how data can be presented beautifully and easily. So the first thing is, if anybody is interested in data visualization, there's a nice website called Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation. And they publish this global burden of disease data visualization. So if you look at this picture, it is stunting of people short age, under 5. And the x-axis is 1992, 2030. And y-axis the percentage of stunting globally. The line, the bold line dots are the actual data, and towards the end it is projected data, and the dotted line is target. So in a simple shot, one can accurately see what is the current prevalence of stunting, if one looks at 2024 or 2025. So accuracy is there. The graph is very clear. So clarity is also not an issue. And people can understand it. Even if you're not a technical person who understands mathematics or statistics, a simple graph should be able to appeal to a wide audience. You should not get PhD in biostatistics. The graph should be easily understandable by anyone. So this is one example. Again, another one, Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation. Just look at the top one alone. High fasting plasma glucose is a risk factor. And the outcome they're looking at is chronic kidney disease. They have developed something called an RO score. The score works if it's more than 1, if high fasting plasma glucose is a risk factor for chronic kidney disease. And how much it is more than 1, it is a bigger risk factor. Less than 1 means it is not a risk factor. The star rating is looking at the quality of the evidence behind that data. And the data type means continuous. What does continuous mean? That is the relationship between high fasting plasma glucose and the kidney is continuous. It may not be linear, it may be slightly less than linear, but as the fasting plasma glucose goes up, kidney function worsens. So this, you can look at so many risk factors in one table, so many outcomes, the relationship, the quality of the data, and what is the type of the relationship between these two. So I'm just trying to show how a single picture can convey so much information. This is another one looking at infectious disease. So on the x-axis is the year 1990 till 2020. So as the year goes by. And the y-axis is deaths, 50,000, 100,000, 1,000. So the large number of deaths. So let us just trace one. Let's look at the red one, staff warriors. Staff warriors. As you can see, in 1990, when I would have been doing post-graduation, this amount of deaths, global deaths due to staff warriors was low. But as you can see, over time, it has now overtaken many other bacteria. So in 2020, it is the leading cause of drug-resistant bacterial deaths. So somebody looks at this and says, "Oh, what should I focus on? I want to study drug-resistant." Oi, there's the data given for you. On the other hand, let's look at another one. When I was a postgraduate, pneumococcus was a big. Half the patients had pneumococcal pneumonia or pneumococcal meningitis, and we were very worried about pneumococcal resistance to penicillin. So you can see that 1990, the amount of deaths due to pneumococcal resistance went up in the year 2000, but now gradually that has declined. On the other hand, people talk about Acinetobacter baumannii. That's the blue line. And you can see that that has also gradually been going up. So you can compare many things in a single graph. As long as the x-axis is clear, the y-axis is clear, and the labeling is clear. So again, just to highlight the importance of data visualization. If you visualize it properly, even a non-expert is able to look at this data. Another way of looking at a graph, deaths among people 0 to 6. There's a big infant mortality. So you can see that in women, this is India, girls in India, the infant mortality, so 0 to 6 mortality was quite high in 1950 and it has come very low by 2020. And similarly for boys also, the mortality rate came down from very high in 1950 to slightly higher. But you also notice that the probability of death is more in boys, 0 to 6. Girls, it has come down dramatically, but it has not come down so dramatically. So you can compare two things in the same graph. In the same graph, you can also ask, why are we pointing only at India? What about looking at global data? So this color theme graph is very excellent for this. Why is the color theme graph excellent? Because like blue means very low deaths, very low 0 to 6 deaths. Red means very high. And yellow is somewhere in the middle. So India is somewhere in the middle. But you can also see that, hey, Sri Lanka is doing very well compared to us in 0 to 6 deaths. So this is in one single picture, you can convey the information you've written 20 paragraphs about data visualization. So that's the importance of data visualization. One more example. This is smoking prevalence in 2015. And the same color, blue is low and red is high. And you can see that India is light blue. So the prevalence of smoking in India is probably about 15%. This is the global prevalence from 1980 up to 2025. And you can see the global prevalence of smoking, this black line, has somewhat decreased, not a dramatic decrease. Then you say, okay, what about the countries? This graph looks at all the countries and the smoking amount. And you can see that Southeast Asia is this sort of maroonish red picture here. That is this number of smokers. So in India, there are 100 million smokers. They estimate from 100 to 110 million smokers in 2015. So this gives you one single snapshot all you want to know about smoking globally, in India, and the trend which is going on. So again, this is a beautiful way of data visualization. The last graph which I want to show, unfortunately, I can't play it live, but if you go to this Global Burden of Disease website, this is a graph looking at HIV in India globally. Again, green is low and red is more, and red is the highest in southern Africa. But this graph, if you play the graph here, it will show you from 1990 to 2015 how the colors keep changing. So you can look at the changing trends over time. So data visualization. So now let's get into the top. Why we visualize data? So why? So it should be an efficient way of conveying data. Instead of writing 3 paragraphs, 3 pages of information, a single picture should be better than that. It should be efficient. The reader should be able to understand the picture than from the text. That's important. It should be intuitive. It should not be, okay. The picture should tell the story quickly. it should be efficient. So it should not say, I need 4 pictures to tell the information I could tell in one paragraph of text. It should be an efficient use of space. It should be accurate. So when you have a graph, you plot text and y axis, the point of the graph should be accurate down. So somebody from the graph should be able to get out Indian smoking, Indian mortality down from the graph. So the graph has to be highly accurate. Now, suppose I present this graph to all of you for a varied audience of students, postgraduates, faculty, statisticians. All of you should be able to understand. But if I'm making this talk to a group of biostatisticians or to smoking experts or somebody else, I should know my target audience. So one of the rules of making a graph for a journal or for a presentation, you should know your audience. How much will they be able to understand? Do they need some great scientific knowledge to understand the graph? Then you should make the graph for that level. If the audience is not going to understand too much of the background, make the graph simple so you don't need great understanding to understand. So the knowledge of this audience is very important. So they say beauty is the eye of the beholder. Like, what is beauty in South India different from North, from East, from West. Similarly, the interpretation of the graph is in the eye of the beholder. Each person may look at the graph and understand something differently. So you'll be understanding that the background of your audience is very important. So whenever you break a graph for your journal presentations in academic sessions, or you're submitting for a conference, or you're submitting for a journal, print journal, think about the audience, the leadership. What will they really want, or how much can they understand? So the first thing, it should grab your attention. So they say the smoking graph, 110 million, or the HIV graph, which runs a number. So remember that if you submit to a journal, you can have 3,000 words, 2 tables and 1 figure, or 1 figure, 2 tables. So you must make sure that those tables and figures are what grabs attention. In fact, now most people will say this is the most important figure, and that will be the one highlighted by the journal and given free. So anybody else who wants to quote your article will take that one central figure and quote it, because all the information about the study will be available in a single picture. So that single picture is very important. The other thing is, if that, then they'll say, let me read the journal article. If that single picture is boring, like, oh, I can't understand, let me not read the whole article at all. So the picture can actually grab the audience to read your presentation. So it must improve access to information. So access meaning, if you give the picture free to everybody, but the text people have to pay, that is, a picture gives access to a wide number of people. Now you'll find recent journal articles on television, they're interviewing. Some new drug has come out, the author will come and give a presentation on TV, and one single picture will be shown, which the audience, wide audience watching TV or YouTube can understand. So precision. So that's the other thing. Imagine if I was to say it went down from 20.2 million to 20 million to 19 million to 18 million. Every year data, I give it in text. Rather than that, if I just show a picture with all the data points, then the reader can look at multiple data points in a single picture. Credibility. We just heard the talk by Akshi and Janvi about qualitative data. To improve the credibility of the data, they gave quotations. They said, oh, the patients were unhappy with doctor communication. How do you know that? No, this is what the exact words of the patient were. That bolstered the credibility of the speaker. She understood what actually the patient said. Similarly, a good picture will bolster the credibility of the author, because that picture tells you that they understand everything well. Very often, nobody read the words. They see the picture and make a conclusion. Then they'll see the author's conclusion. Did the author conclude the same thing that I did from this picture? If they did, they'll be very happy. They may, of course, make a different conclusion. You can summarize everything in one picture also. Many pictures, but nowadays everybody says have one single summary picture of the entire study. That is possible. So for these reasons, data visualization is the key element of all publications. So now you will find the conference, please don't give us large text. Give us few pictures. The picture should tell the whole story. 3 pictures and you can manage a whole 20-minute talk. That's important of getting pictures. Even tables. Some people will put hundreds of pictures when a single table might be enough. So you must have a judicious balance between tables and pictures. Don't just assume that pictures are better than tables. No, sometimes a table also can convey a lot of information. Okay, let me ask the clerks. Who is that? Registrars? Anybody? That's Florence Nightingale. What does she have to do with data visualization? Florence Nightingale's quote was this: to understand God's thoughts, we must study statistics, for these are the measure of his purpose. Strange. Florence Nightingale was the first person to think of data visualization. You don't think about it. She was working in the Korean War, and she was also a statistician and also a visualizer, data visualizer. So I'm going to show you the picture, but it's important to understand that. She published her findings on the British Army in the Crimean War. So right now, again, Crimea has been taken over by Russia. But even many years ago, Crimean War was going on. And she took raw data from the hospital where the British soldiers were admitted, and she published it. In 1859. So just imagine, in 1859, published. Even today, people are talking about it. Any of the stats people know the name of her figure? Florence Nightingale was the first person to do this figure. This is also called a polar area chart or Rose diagram. This she did in 1859. Just imagine this. So the causes of mortality in the east, that is in Crimea. I mean, for people in the west, everything is east like that. So this is 1854, April to March 1855, and this is 1855 to 1856. From the center of this diagram to the top is the mortality, total mortality. This is the mortality due to other causes. This is mortality due to wound infections and sepsis. So you can see the different amount of wound infection and sepsis. This is mortality due to other causes. So she planned this diagram, she collected data and she put this diagram in 1859. And a year later, the country implemented sepsis protocol like hand washing, wound cleaning, and other things. And suddenly she showed the change in the mortality. So the mortality due to wound infections and sepsis, the small red diagram inside became markedly less, and the mortality due to other things became more. So this was helping to her. This helped her. So each slice is representing categories. So this is September, October, November, December. So she made the diagram like that. The distance from the center is the amount of mortality. So more distance, more mortality. And that's color coded. So each color represents this is sepsis mortality, this other mortality, this is total mortality. So she was able to do this one picture. So why people call this an iconic figure, this Rose diagram or Florence Nightingale's graph? So she made an argument that hand washing and sepsis and theater sepsis was important, but the graph told the story itself. So without that, nobody would have been to. So a visual rhetoric or visual argument for her data. It was high quality. Every single point, the data was accurate. In 1859, she corrected it, she made this graph. So this is among the first graphs which showed that data visualization is terribly important. You can change policy because people look at the picture and say, oh, now I can change my policy. Now, this is called a Vitruvian plot. So in alphabetical order, it will compare. So you can see here that for pain relief, okay, compared to sumatriptan, one drug, paracetamol. Here's pain relief, pain-free, pain relief in 2 hours, pain relief 24 hours, rescue drug use. And these are the side effects which come on the top compared to sumatriptan. This is called a Vitruvian plot. So sumatriptan is the reference drug. Okay. And in the bottom is freedom from pain, sustained relief from pain, rescue drug use. On the top is all the side effects of the drug. So if it is green, what does it mean? So the sumatriptan is a comparison drug. Let's look at this drug, elytriptan. For pain relief, green means elliptriptan was better than sumatriptan by 60% for pain relief. What does it mean for provotriptan red? That means provotriptan was worse than sumatriptan by 44%. And yellow means the data is not clear. You will notice that in some of these places, that there's looking white on top. Like for example, coxip and fatty, there is no color on top. That means there was no data for that particular comparison. So you can give one drug versus 9 drug comparison, benefits, side effects, quality of the data, how much is the benefit, where data is lacking, all in a single picture. This is called a Vitruvian plot. Okay, now let's ask the clerks. I'm sure you've seen this picture. What is this picture? Any of the clerks? Any of the interns know what this picture is? It's so famous. Any of the stats students? Yeah, London. Yes, very good. Yeah, well, interns have got slightly different mindset after the picnic. But this is this is called Broad Street. Any clue now from the clerks? Broad Street. John Snow, correct. There was a cholera outbreak in London. John Snow took the map of London. He didn't. There was already mortality data available in London. He didn't collect the mortality. He just plotted the graphs. Bigger graph is bigger mortality. Smaller graph is smaller box is smaller mortality. And you can see clearly that the mortality around Broad Street is very high. So this is, and he found out that most of the deaths are due to cholera. And it's clustered around Broad Street. And he said that it's because the water pump in this area was different from the water pump in the surrounding area. He didn't know what the organism was. The moment they cut the water pump, Broad Street water pump, mortality suddenly crashed. So the simple picture. Again, that long ago, John Snow, the very famous one, which everybody talks about. But before that, a more complex figure was done already. Okay. I don't know if any of you have seen this picture before. Has anybody seen this picture before? This is not from medicine. This is from history. I don't know if you have seen the movie of Napoleon recently. Netflix, there's a movie, Napoleon. Okay, maybe a Dutch kind of movie about his life from his wife's perspective. But Napoleon's march. Napoleon fought in Russia. And he said, I'm going to conquer Russia. And he had a terrible time because the weather was very cold. So one person said, let us tell the story of Napoleon's march. You can write a 3-volume book about it. Minard put a single picture. This was Napoleon's march to Moscow, 1812. So it's quite a long time ago. And a subsequent retreat. So let us look at this. This is the passage of time. Okay. This is the entry of the French army into Russia. And the width of the yellow or orange line is the size of the army. What happens to the size of the army as the war goes on and reaches Moscow? Most of them die. And this is the retreat of the army back in black. So what is the size of the army as they retreat? Army almost demolished by the time they reach back the exit from Russia. So one single picture told a story. Second, here he has given the names of the cities. So you can see the cities where each of these things happen. So one more data point. He's also provided latitude and longitude where each of these things happen. Then people ask, why did they go and die? Then he provided, let me add temperature, minus 26 degrees, minus 30. So why did they all die? They all died of bitter cold. So in one single picture, Minard was able to show quite a long time ago, so many variables. One single fellow looked at this data, calculated the data, accurate data. This is among the top 3 cited pictures for data visualization. How a picture can tell 1,000 words. So I didn't have to tell much of Napoleon's story. The picture told itself. This is another famous picture about what happens. Right now, Trump is very anti diversity, equity, and inclusion. But at the time in 1900, this famous fellow, W.E.B. Du Bois, was asked the question, what has happened to the blacks? Because by the time the Civil War was over in UK and the blacks were US and the blacks were being integrated into society, initially separately educational institutes. So he was asked, what are the blacks doing? They're educating them, what are they doing? So he did this, and he said that among the educated blacks, many of them were teachers, some of them were ministers, some of them were professors, and some of them were housewives like this. So even in an early stage, 1900, he was able in a single picture. Of course, these are all hand drawn because there was no print and computer and stuff like that. It gave a good idea to the people of America what is happening to the blacks at that point of time. So this is also a very famous picture given at the time. So the first printers and monitors, actually, when I was a postgraduate student, they were only printers and they couldn't pick out any pictures. Only text was able to come out from the printer. Then, after some time, we got these laser printers, which we still have in most of our offices. Laser printers have got some amount of resolution. So, pictures and graphs will come out well, but not really very accurately. Does anybody know the most commonly used software for picture making now in medicine? Any of the PGs now? Faculties? No. No. Paint? More advanced than paint. SATs, guys? What do they use in R for making medical graphs? SAS? Okay, very good. So, SAS is very good in picture making. Very good. But now, the one which is most widely used is not SAS. It's called ggplot. We all heard of that, ggplot. So ggplot was designed by this guy called Victor in 2011. And there is a grammar of graphics, a book or a treatise written by this guy Wilkinson in 2005. Based on that, he developed this thing called a ggplot. So it's called a conditional display. You can have many x and many y axis, and you can have many colors and many things going on in a graph. So it's called subset of data. Instead of just showing all the data, I can divide it into subgroups and show all the subgroups in a single picture. That's called subsetting of data. So you have one axis, one y-axis in many pictures. So this famous picture which I'm going to show you was done by one guy called Cleveland. It's called the Barley data set. Again, for people doing data visualization, this is a very famous data set. So it strongly suggested there was an error in the data set. So what is this barley data set? They had 6 areas in US and different types of barley. And they were saying how much barley is like rice or wheat or something. How much yield is there every year? Is there a change in the amount of barley every year in the 6 areas and many different types of barley? And they said, oh, there's something happening in one particular year. They identified that something went wrong and they tried to change their policy. Then this guy said, no, you made an error in the data. So let me show you this data. Crookston, Waseca, University Farm, Morris, Grand Rapids, Duluth. These are the 6 areas in US where they studied the barley production. All these, Trebby, Wisconsin, up to Swansota are types of barley. The blue dots are 1932. The red dot is 1931. Can any of you look at the graph and tell me what is the general trend? Barley production between 1931 and 1932. This is more production on the x-axis. 1932 is blue and 1931. Is it increasing or decreasing? It's increasing. This is increase. Okay. Okay. So what is happening here at Morris? Increase. So nobody understood this. They were looking at the data and they were totally confused. Then this guy Cleveland said, either somebody wrongly entered the data for Morris. Because the trend in Morris is slightly different from everybody else. So what you put as 32, you label as 31. Or there was some unusual weather, climatic, or other pest conditions in the place of Morris, which accounted for the change in the data in Morris. Because this came out only because the picture was able to tell this story. You can see that this axis is the same, x-axis same, but y-axis also same, but you have divided it into B groups So you can compare many because this x-axis is same across the groups. So you understood this general idea? So this is called GT, this manufactured, this done by this plot called GT plot. So initially it was called a trellis. I don't know if you have gardens somewhere in India or not, but this kind of a structure is present in many gardens, British or ancient Mughal gardens, and they call this a trellis. So it was first implemented as a statistical software called S. And this trellis imaging system was done by Becker and Chambers 1984. Later on, there's another software which some statisticians use called S plus. This is the software which I want all of you to get used to, postgraduates, faculty. It's called R. It will replace all software because it's free to use and you can make the world's best graphs and tables analysis in this. So I just want to tell you about why is it called R. So there were two gentlemen, Robert Gentleman and Ross Ihaka in 1980 who developed this software. So they call the software R. And the package which made the graphs was called Lattice. So the word trellis already has had a trademark, but now they've changed the name to ggplot because the word lattice and panels had some other connotation. Somebody else was using that. So the software used to make medical graphs, illustrations is now the ggplot. Okay, so I've given some references and I've just given a brief introduction today on data visualization. So one, it's very important because it can a picture can convey 1,000 words. It should be accurate. It should be simple to the audience to understand, and it should increase the audience's participation. Hey, this is what the graphs are like. I was thinking it would increase, but you all point out, no, the barley production has decreased. You are all able to pick it out. You are all able to pick out that there was a change in the Morris data pattern. So then now you will say, let me go and read the Bali data set. What is it all about? What is the Bali article all about? So data visualization should increase the audience participation in your study, increase their want to look at your data more. So today is just the introduction part of data visualization. So I'll continue the next, every week we take short snaps on data visualization. I gave on the first slide, sorry for going back to the audience online. But for those of you who are interested, just go to this website and have a look at it. I think I've missed some of you at the beginning. This website. So best practices for data visualization, and it is done by the Royal Statistical Society. So today we have covered why we visualize data. I just want to give you a flavor of why it's important to look at data. From the next time onwards, we're going to look at the principles and elements of visualization. And the last talk will be on choosing applications for data visualization. So many of you are interested, this device taken from there. And we have to acknowledge these two chaps, Andreas Cross and Nicola Rennie. So the material is from this website. So I'll stop here today with just an introduction to data visualization. Short sessions we'll keep because it's Saturday afternoon. And every time we'll do a little bit on data visualization. Yeah. Any questions? Okay. If there are none, thank you all. Okay. Bye.